Welcome everyone. This is exciting to see you all tonight. Tonight we have Baruch Hashem, a nice crowd of young adults, an audience that we have at the Jewish Academy. As you know, launched just a few weeks ago, providing top quality adult education for anyone of all backgrounds, and we have on the note of tonight set ourselves a goal to also provide for you, for us, for young people in the downtown core and throughout Vancouver, an opportunity to learn, to socialize, to grow as a strong Jewish community. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi Trugman and to Mrs. Trugman, which have given us the honor and the privilege to come visit, to be our guest speakers for tonight. This isn't just a guest speaker. Rabbi Trugman, as you know, is also a musician, a scholar, and acknowledge the presence of Dana, which is also very much involved with the young adult community throughout Vancouver, starting from the Jewish Federation in the head office, and that has kindly helped us to spread the word, cooperating. Without further ado, Rabbi Trugman, thank you very much.
The Rabbi and the Rebbitzin and the Rabbi for having us here. So my wife and I have had the privilege of traveling around the world, doing Shabbatons and teaching and Malava Malkas and holiday programs, and we've had a chance to see Chabad literally around the world, and the work that Chabad is doing is so amazing. It is so praiseworthy. It is servicing so many people in so many places that I just want to give the Rabbi and Rebbitzin a bracha. And I understand that I'm part of the launch of this. I didn't realize it, so that's even like more tremendous that I could be part of launching this new educational initiative. And thank you all for coming. And I say everywhere, Baruch Hashem for Chabad. Baruch Chodesh Elul. And it's customary to blow the shofar every morning in preparation for literally the high holidays. So I haven't played this. You'll see later. I'm going to incorporate a beautiful teaching about the shofar in relationship to the mystical power of music. Very beautiful teaching, but I'll wait for that. And I'm going to ask everyone to stand. It's customary to stand when you hear the shofar. And I've never played this before. So bear with me, but you should know that this is, we don't usually think of it, but this is a musical instrument. We think of it as a shofar, and we hear it, once a year. But this is a musical instrument. That was the question that I posed really to myself. And what I'd like to give over tonight is what I found out, or what my conclusions were. But beforehand, so I want this to be somewhat interactive, I will pose the question to anyone who would like to try to answer it. What is it about music that pulls at the soul and the heart so much?
The other person understand, it's like, I don't know, like when you just play the shofar, it's something like beyond, like you can hardly understand. I think when the truth is, when words fail, music speaks.
Ah, that was beautiful. Where words fail, music speaks. Wow, that's quotable.
Music is honesty, and you can feel what the other person is trying to tell you just by listening to the music.
Mm. You know, there's an expression in the Talmud. So here we can just translate it. Music that comes from the heart enters into the
It's a
heart.
vehicle for relaxation, like liberation of, different emotions, right? It can kind of canalize you to certain feelings or certain states of mind.
Mm. Absolutely. We're going to touch on everything everyone has said. Absolutely. Different levels of consciousness.
So combine the senses, like synesthetically, it can make you see, like hear visions and see sounds and ways that people couldn't normally do.
Right. We're going to touch on that. That's so good. You stole my my lines. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's called synesthesia, where the senses cross. We're gonna touch on that. Anyone else?
If you let them all talk, they'll stall you line.
But I see everyone is very tuned in already to the power of music. It is a universal language. It takes us to heights of consciousness. It opens our heart. It speaks where words fail. And it takes us, it transcends our senses. So, I'm finished. Okay, so I'll start with some music. This is called the beat, the pulse of life. Because what everyone said, I'm going to try to take that, but go deeper and understanding, well, where is that coming from? Like, where is that coming? So this is called the pulse of life. Everyone is welcome to tap your feet, clap your hands, snap your fingers, close your eyes and float away, whatever you want to do. Okay, let's start at the beginning. In the beginning of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, they talk about a number of milestones in human development. And they only mention a handful. The first to live in cities, the first to shepherd, the first to make metal instruments, and the first to make music. Yuval. Was there a Yuval here? No. Yuval was the first to play musical instruments. What's significant is, of all of human development, music is one of the ones that are mentioned in the Torah as a milestone in the progression, the evolution of human beings. In the Bible, the Tanakh, there are many, many mentions of music. And you'll remember some of these. David HaMelech, when King Saul used to have a disturbed spirit, he would call for David HaMelech. He wasn't a melech then. He'd call for David, and David would play music for him and calm his soul. This is such an important thing because every story in the Torah is archetypal. So here we're being told that music has a healing effect on the soul. On the soul and also the body. They've done studies with the elderly, and they've divided them into two groups. The group that hears music even 3 times a week for an hour, their physical condition is much better than those who don't, just by listening to music 3 times a week. An incredible story when Samuel comes to Saul and says, God has chosen you to be the first king. Saul, who was very modest, could not believe it. He absolutely could not believe it. Samuel, over and over again, God really has picked you to be the first king. He wouldn't believe it. So Samuel said, I'll give you a couple of signs. And he gave him a couple of signs. The last sign was, you will meet a band of musicians, and they will be prophesying. And when you hear the music, you will also begin to prophesy. That was one of the signs he was given. Sure enough, a few days later, he meets a band of musicians, and through the music they were, I'll say it different, instead of prophesying, they had entered into a state, a prophetic state. That's what a couple of people alluded to. That music has the power to lift us beyond normative reality. And it says that Shaul listened to the music and he began to prophesy also. So this is telling you the power of music. Later, a number of kings in the surrounding nations come to Elisha. Elisha was a student of Elijah the prophet. And they want to know what's going to happen in a certain war that is brewing. And at first Elisha did not want to answer them. But then he decided he would, and he said, bring me the musicians. And it says they brought him the musicians, and he began to prophesy. So this is an amazing connection telling us the power of music. The power of music. And I think everyone here, everyone probably has different tastes in music, but I'm sure everyone's experienced becoming one with the music. When your favorite music is on, especially when you have headphones on, and there is no other world other than the music, really. When you close your eyes. My first 2 years of college was spent most of the time with earphones on, and then they were record players. But going into different levels of consciousness through the music. So this is just so we see how important music is in Judaism. I'll just mention one other thing, and that is the music in the temple. I think everyone knows that every day we remember that God should rebuild Jerusalem, which means also to rebuild the temple. Tisha B'Av was not that long ago. Every year we mourn for 3 weeks for the temple. So this memory is super alive in our consciousness. But we should know that when people would go to the temple, the question is, why is it so embedded in our consciousness? Other than it was, of course, a symbol and a focus center of Judaism. But it must mean that people who went to the temple had such a powerful experience, a profound experience, that it was handed down how deep this experience was. And we should know that when people went to the temple, almost the most important part of the experience was that there was always music. The Levites were playing music all the time, and the shofar was one of their instruments. But this was really the greatest orchestra and choir that has ever been assembled. And it was every day in the temple. So when people would come into this awesomely beautiful building, and in the first temple when there was the divine presence resting, and you put all of that together with heavenly music playing, you can imagine what an uplifting, inspiring experience that was. I'm sure everyone's been to rock concerts that have moved us, but can you multiply that by 10,000, the experience? Or how many of you have been to the kotel? Almost everyone. If you haven't, this year Hashem should bring you to Yerushalayim. And let me now ask you, how many of you had a powerful experience at the kotel? But again, you have to multiply it by 10,000. The kotel is basically a retaining wall for the Temple Mount. So you can imagine if we have an experience at the kotel, what it must have been in the temple. And the music was an important part of that. So my wife and I had the great privilege of being students of Rabbi Carlebach for many, many, many years. And in our generation, he was the master of Jewish music. He practically, after the Holocaust, revived Jewish music. And you're probably aware that what's called carlebach davening has spread all over the world, literally all over the world. So I wanted to play at least one song from Reb Shlomo. How can you talk about music and not have at least one song? So this one I'm playing this one specifically. It's a very simple song, and it really only has one word. It has a little bit more than that, but the word is yachad. What does yachad mean? Together. So we're together tonight, and we're exploring the unifying power of music. So I thought this would be like the best song to play. It comes from the Kedusha of Musaf on Shabbat and holidays also. And so the words might be familiar to you, but the main one is Yachad. Okay? Everyone is more than welcome to sing along, to clap, to hum, whatever you want to do. Yachad, 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 now we're going to go to a whole different level here. Okay? Creation and music. Every morning in our prayers we say, Baruch she'amar v'haya olam. Who can translate for me? Baruch she'amar v'haya olam.
Rabbi.
I forgot.
Baruch, what's Baruch? Blessed she'amar.
Who said,
Blessed is the one who said, V'haya olam.
there
The
was
world
world.
exists.
Right, and there was a world.
And that's it.
So the question is this beautiful poetry? Poetic license? Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came into being. If you look in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, it says that God created the world with 10 expressions of speech. What are these 10 expressions of speech? The first is, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So our sages took this absolutely literal, that God spoke the world into being. Now we do that all the time. We're in the image of God. Is you can make a relationship with the proper words, and you can break a relationship with the wrong words. You can break a relationship of 25 years in one sentence. That's the power of speech. And in fact, in the Torah, when it talks about the creation of man, it says that God blew into man the soul of life, and he became a living being. So the translation, the Aramaic, is that man became a speaking spirit. That's the unique quality of a human being, is that we speak. Complex animals also speak, as we'll see as we go on, but not in a complex language like we do. So we believe literally that God spoke the world into being through the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters are analogous to a scientist who says, if you ask a scientist, what is the world made of? And they answer, atoms, subatomic molecules, elements. That is what the world is made up of. If you ask a Torah scholar, what is the world made up of? He'll say the letters, the Hebrew letters. They're talking about the exact same thing. The Hebrew letters are packets of energy. Along with the letters are the 10 sfirot. How many of you have heard of the 10 sfirot? So we need an explanation here. So the 10 sfirot are called 10 divine emanations through which an infinite God creates and maintains a finite universe. In other words, they are channels of energy. So between the 10 sfirot and the 22 Hebrew letters, these are our atomic elements. If you look at the chart of the elements, there are really not that many, around 100. So we have like 32. But we're talking about the same thing. We'll see this further. So God speaks the world into being. Now we'll take the word Bereshit. Bereshit is the first word of the Torah, in the beginning. And if you take the letters of Bereshit and you permute them in a different order, it spells Shirat Av, the song of the Father. Av is Aleph Bet. That's the alphabet. So you could read it, Shirat Aleph Bet, the song of the Aleph Bet. So what conclusion we reach from this is that not that God spoke the world into being, but God sang the world into being. We'll see shortly how quantum physics has confirmed this. But right now we have this beautiful idea that God sings the world into creation. We'll see that it's literally true. So we're starting to scratch the surface of the power of music. Because we are talking about the power of creation. The power of the Creator is coming through music. So that takes us right to a new level here. And so for that new level, we need a song, right? We need a song. And as we go kind of like higher and higher, I invite you to let the music be like wings of a bird for your soul. The Alter Rebbe called music the quill of the soul. The quill of the soul. So let the music take you to whatever inner place that you need to go, and realize that a new year is coming, and let the music help you open up those places, because I hope everyone is starting to make their New Year's resolutions, right? That's what the month of El is all about change, improvement, growth, spiritual growth. So let the music do its magic. go even deeper?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let's go deeper here. So we have this idea of, the Torah idea of God creating the world through music. Actually, this is the perfect place for the shofar before we get to the next level. When we received the Torah at Sinai, there was a lot of, call it physical phenomena that was happening. There was thunder, lightning, there was a cloud on top of the mountain. It was called, that the mountain was Kulo Ashan, full of smoke, Ashan. So it's brought down in Kabbalah. Ashan stands for three letters. The three letters of this word Ashan, smoke, Ayin, Shin, Nun. The Ayin is Olam, meaning world or space. Shana, like Shana Tova, is year, meaning time. And the Nun is Nefesh, which means soul or consciousness. Okay, so Ashan, Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. This was written about in the Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah is probably the oldest Kabbalistic text that we have. And it says that these are the dimensions of reality. Is world, soul, world, year, and soul, meaning space, time, and consciousness. This is from approximately 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. This tradition has been handed down. Lo and behold, 100 years ago, Albert Einstein reveals that not only the three dimensions of space are thought of as dimensions, but also time. And he revolutionized science forever by introducing what's called the fourth dimension. That space and time are now indivisible. The space-time continuum. But what about nefesh? What about consciousness? So I invite anyone to Google quantum physics and the role of consciousness. And what you'll see is right now, the cutting edge of quantum physics is exploring the role of human consciousness. But this is what the Torah says and what Sefer Yetzirah says. So now we have, so what does it mean that the mountain was full of smoke? So this means, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Michael.
Okay, so this is what Michael said before, and I said I would get back to, is after that it says that we saw the sounds of the thunder and lightning and the shofar. So Rashi says exactly what you said, or the opposite. You said what Rashi said. He said that we saw what usually can only be heard, and this was a unique experience because an individual can have what's called synesthesia, a crossing of senses. We're talking about 3 million people experiencing synesthesia at the same time. And our tradition is that this shofar, it says that the sound of the shofar at Sinai became louder and louder and louder. Now, when I blew the shofar, the last one, I extended it. But a human being, like maybe a minute and a half, like how far can you do Tekiah Gedola? You run out of breath. But it says at Sinai that the sound of the shofar just kept on going. So this is an amazing thing that the giving of the Torah was accompanied by the sound of the shofar. And what happened was, the way the Midrash explains it is that the seven heavens opened up, and we experienced a mass experience of divinity. But what's interesting is that it was accompanied by the sound of the shofar. So we mentioned before that there are 10 sfirot, 10 divine emanations. We also mentioned that God created the world through 10 expressions of speech. What I did mention is that according to our tradition, there are 10 archetypal songs sung throughout history. The Song of Songs, the Song at the Sea, Ha'azinu, the Song of Hannah, the Song of Devorah. David sings a song, and there are a few more. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbos. There are 10 archetypal songs. Now you see the 10s lining up here? And then God gives the 10 commandments after leading us out of Egypt, after the 10 plagues. So we have this string of 10s here. They're all connected. They're all connected. So now we'll go forward. When I play this instrument, can someone tell me what is actually happening on a physical level that you hear?
Vibration.
Vibration. The strings are vibrating, which is creating sound waves, which then enter our ear and then is translated by our brain. But that is literally what's happening. And this note is different. Why? Because there's a different frequency of vibration. Any of the notes that I play, it is vibrations and frequencies. That is, if you want to be like a scientist and explain what music is, that's what it is. So, as part of Einstein's revelations, so science established that all of energy, and I wrote a book about light here, and I go into great depth about light being both a wave and a particle. But then they found out that all energy, and matter is energy. This apparently solid, unmovable, static table, as we all learned, is a frenetic world of whirling atoms. We just happen to see it as a solid. But when you put it under the microscope, it is energy and it's moving. And science then revealed that all energy is waves and particles. That's what's happening in the individual atom. When you get down to it, that each of the subatomic particles is vibrating, which is then creating frequencies and what we call reality. So 30 years ago approximately, Paul Davies, one of the greatest physicists, began to compare the workings of the atom to music. And he wrote that just like an organ, the different pipes, have you ever seen one of these huge organs with 100 pipes? That each pipe is a different size and has its geometry. And as the vibrations go through the different pipes, they create what we call music. So Paul Davies said that's exactly how an atom works. Each of the subatomic particles is creating vibrations, which creates reality. So this is like accepted. This is an accepted thing. He began, though, to use the metaphor of music to describe it. Then comes what many of you have heard of string theory. String theory, right now, it's still a theory, because what they're proposing, there are no instruments that can prove or disprove it. But at least according to mathematics, it works. And string theory is talking about that the smallest particles, subatomic particles, are not points. Because when you look at a textbook, it'll show you the different subatomic particles, or the electron, or the proton, the neutron, as points. String theory says they're not points, they are strings. And the strings are vibrating. And these vibrations create reality. This is what reality is. So there's a very, very famous physicist, Brian Greene, nice Jewish boy, who wrote a very famous book called The Elegant Universe. I suggest it to anyone, The Elegant Universe. And he says the following. He says the metaphor of music to describe the fabric of the universe has taken on a startling reality. This is his very words. The metaphor of music as a description of the fabric of the universe has taken on a startling reality. So when I'm doing my thought process, my research into trying to answer what is it about music that pulls us so, that is so powerful. So this is like the conclusion is that when we plug into music, when we hear music, when we play music, we are in touch with the very fabric of the universe. The universe is music. And I'm going to explain after another song exactly how does creation express itself through music, and then how can each person find their own inner song and develop it and express it. But first, well, more music to help us get there. Each song is so that this information doesn't stay just up here, that it can now enter into the heart. Chabad is very, very, very strong on the idea that the mind should rule over the heart. Because the heart and the physical can pull us into all kinds of directions and pull us very, very into the material world. So the mind has to rule over the heart. But at the same time, Chabad also says that even though this is true, there is a certain wisdom of the heart that supersedes the mind. Like the general principle is, like every time we saw let's say a chocolate chip cookie, right, and our body says, right? And if we would go through with that, we'd be in bad shape. So we have to have the mind rule over the heart and the belly. But, like the Alter Rebbe said, though, there is a wisdom in the heart, and that's where music is reaching. That's where music is reaching. Okay, so now, so what do we do with all of this? So let's just explore, how is creation singing? So there's a midrash, an ancient midrash called Perek Shira, the chapters of song. And in it, there are 70 different creations that are mentioned, and what song they sing. There's a song of the sun, song of the moon, song of the rivers, song of the seas, song of the grains, song of the fruits, the trees, the animals, the fish, insects. Everything is singing. So before quantum physics reveals what it reveals. So you look at this midrash and say, beautiful poetry. It's so nice. But it's just, it's like a fantasy. Trees singing, mountains singing, sun singing. But now we see that it's true. Last night, this is an example. Last night, so I gave over similar ideas, and the people who were hosting us said, I have to show you the most amazing thing when we get home. Get home, and she shows me on her iPad. It's called the Song of the Stars. It's an I think you just Google it. Is that the Song of the Stars? Oh, but she said if you do that, you might get Elvis Presley or something. Song of the Stars, or the Galaxies or something. But we got to this website. They had pictures of these supernovas, these galaxies, and they've recorded in space the sounds that are being emanated. Doesn't mean that the human here necessarily can hear. As we know, many animals hear sounds that we don't hear. There's a huge range of sound waves, and we only really hear and see a very small segment of the spectrum. And it has the sounds of these galaxies. I was just astounded. It was just amazing. That's how science is, like, in a sense, catching up with what our sages, what the Kabbalah, what the Torah has been saying. But people, in a sense, just looked at it and said, like, it's nice, like as a metaphor. But here, when Perek Shur says that the stars are singing, and now and each one is different. Each one is different. So we see that inanimate matter has a vibrational field. That is its song. So mountains do sing. Rivers do clap hands. That's what David says. They clap hands. And trees exalt. Now in the 70s, a famous book came out called The Secret Life of Plants. And since then, hundreds of scientific studies have been done on the effect of music and plants. And different types of music. When they play like rock and roll, plants don't like it. They get very freaked out. But when you play them Beethoven or Mozart or Brahms, they grow at a different level. They respond. They've done hundreds. Again, you can Google this information. And recently also, people are delving into the effect of music and voice on water molecules. Maybe some of you have heard this. Again, you can Google this, and they take pictures of water, and someone screams at the water, and then they're able to capture the water molecules, and they are dark, non-symmetrical, or someone talks nicely to the water, or plays music, and you have the most incredibly complex symmetry of the water molecules. These are astounding ideas. So, minerals sing, a vibrational field. Plants are also singing, but they really react to music. And we know that animals speak and communicate. This is well known. But now they're doing a lot of research, and they find that what sounds to us like kind of either like screeching or beeps or grunting or whatever, when they look at the whole picture, they see patterns. That's where they're getting to now. And they're now also describing that animals not just talk to each other, especially in mating rituals, that the male is singing to the female. Like for our ears, it's not so easy to hear it. But when people, scientists, are studying it, and they see a cadence, they see a beat, and they measure the different sounds, and they see that in their language, not only are they speaking to each other, but especially in mating, they're singing. So now we have mineral, vegetable, animal, and of course, human beings. So the last idea that I want to entertain, and then I want to open up the floor to questions, comments. If I get none, then maybe I'll pose some questions to you to get you involved, is if every creation has a song, then that means each individual has a song. And it's true. Each one of us has first of all, a vibrational field around us, what's called an aura. But auras are real. Not everyone can see them, but there are people who can see them. And now, because of these super advanced types of cameras and laser and everything, they can show people's auras and the different colors. And if we're angry, there's one color, and if we're happy, there's another color, and if we're calm, there's another color, and if we're aggressive, the vibrational field spreads, and it's real. So each one of us has a vibrational field, but I want to describe it and define it a little bit deeper. Our song, each person's song, is their mission and task in life. And I think everyone understands this in a different language, that when we're acting righteously, ethically, morally, when we're doing the kind of work that we like to do in the world, when our relationships are going smoothly, so we feel really good. Why? Because we're in tune with our direction in life, our purpose in life. But everyone knows if one of our relationships, it could be with parents, it could be with siblings, it could be with girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, children, whatever it is, boss, whatever it is, or we're between jobs and we're like very unsettled, so we feel out of tune with our inner being. So our inner song, there's a physical reality to it, because everyone has a different hormonal, it's called the circadian rhythm. And each person, their sleep habits, their eating habits, their ability of metabolism, everyone is different, but everyone has their in-tune song on a physical level. And we know when we don't eat properly, when we don't exercise, when we're stressed and full of tension, so we're out of tune. And we feel that. The same thing spiritually and psychologically. So being in tune with your inner song means being in tune with the essence of who you are and what you want to do in this world. And so when we're accomplishing that, or we feel that we're accomplishing that, we're even taking baby steps, so we're in rhythm with our inner song. But also, many, many, many people have a few inner songs. Like I know for myself that when I daven, when I pray, inside I'm doing it to certain nigunim. And there's certain, and it's not like every time it's different. Like each person kind of develops like you have a favorite song. Also, there's certain inner songs that we feel really good with, that express the depths of our soul. And I say we have a few of them because sometimes when we're, let's say, sad, so we have one inner song that expresses our sadness. We have another one when we are joyous. So the last thing I want to explore is, so what methods can we use to discover this inner song and to bring this inner song really in harmony with our being? So one I'll start with is that what's the word for song in Hebrew? Shir. What's the feminine of shir? Shira. What's the word for prayer in Hebrew? Tefillah. So one of the methods we have in Kabbalah for discovering deeper meanings of words and concepts is if two words have the same numerical value, or gematria, then we're told that they are sharing certain qualities. So one of the most important gematrias, numerical values, is that the numerical value of shira equals tefillah. Meaning that the essence of prayer is song. And the essence of song is prayer. And that's why when we pray with music, it's much better if the congregation is everyone's singing together. There's a tremendous power. I hope you've experienced this. When everyone is singing together, and Baruch Hashem, we had the merit that Reb Shlomo, this was like one of his life's missions, was to renew, it's not, he didn't make it up, but to renew the essential connection between song and prayer. And there is prayer that's in the prayer book with the congregation, and there's a type of prayer that's just between us and God. And so this is one of the deepest ways to find our inner song and to develop it, is to unify prayer and song together. And it works great in a shower. It works great on a mountaintop, by a river, by a waterfall, in a pasture, in a valley, in nature. And the Baal Shem Tov was famous for going out in nature and communing with God. And his great-great-grandson, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, developed a whole system of meditation called Hit Bodedut, from the word boded, which means alone. To be alone with God. And he said there's no formula to it. You can sing, you can cry, you can play music, you can pray, you can meditate, you can yell, you can scream. Whatever moves you, like for real, because it's just between you and God. No one's watching. So these are beautiful ways in which to find our inner song. And I mentioned already meditation. So meditation is a very powerful vehicle for, again, for coming in tune with that inner vibration, that inner rhythm, finding our mission, being in contact with the depths of our neshamas, our souls. And the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, so he said that the soul is a chelek eloka mima'al, mamash, an actual part of God above. So we all have an actual part of God within us. So if God is the creator and he's creating through song, what better way to connect to our creator than through music? So back to the bracha. So the bracha is that through music, prayer, meditation, being in nature, acting morally and ethically, through learning Torah, that we all individually get in tune with our inner son. And according to my teacher, Rav Ginsburg, what do we need to bring the Mashiach? One of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov is that every Jew has a spark of Mashiach in them. Rav Ginsburg teaches what we need is a critical mass of individuals who realize their own messianic spark. What's the messianic spark? A spark of leadership, being a leader. And in the world that we live in, we have so many opportunities in the workplace, in the greater society, in the Jewish community, in schools, in colleges, in universities, in the community that the rabbi and the rebbitzin are trying to create here. Many, many, many opportunities to bring that spark of leadership into the open. And again, we should have a blessed year, a year of spiritual growth and material bounty. And especially, we need peace in Israel, and we need peace in the world.
Amen.
So I'm going to play this one more meditative tune, and then we'll open it up to comments, ideas, questions. I'll play some, or whatever you want to do, eat, whatever you want to do.